Hey guys, welcome to the NFL Preview Show. I'm Tom Barton from TomBartonSports.com. I'm back. I took some time off and I am back for football season here. I got to tell you guys, look, the NFL Preview Show is one of my favorite times a year, and I usually do pretty well. Look, we've been talking about it on Fox Sports Radio for 13 years now, and in 13 years, all but 3 years, I have gotten at least one of the two participants right in my preview show on the air there. So I'm going to share with you guys what I like there. If you like the video, please like and subscribe. I could certainly use that. Also, go check out TomBartonSports.com and Tom Barton Sports over on Twitter. Last year, by the way, week one, TomBartonSports.com absolutely crushed it. 4-0 weekend. I hit 3 underdogs that did not lose. I'd like to say all 3 underdogs won outright, but actually the Texans actually tied. But they did not lose, so the money line was the way to go. All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's get into the preview, right? I'm going to go over quickly every single team, just kind of give you my thoughts on each one of them, a couple of little nuggets about each and every team. And look, it's early, okay? I understand that everyone's all enthusiastic, and I'm going to get comments in a week or two that I hate your team or I don't hate your team. I intentionally wore the Arizona Cardinals jersey because I don't want to show favoritism here. Look, I'm a Bears fan. I'm through and through, out and out about that. But this is about previewing, and I've been on the air for so many years that you have to kind of take your fandom out of it in a lot of cases, and that's one of these cases. So when I give you these, look, it's not bashing your team. It's not that I hate your team, Packers, but it's more of what I actually do look at when I look at these teams. So we'll start with the AFC East and the Buffalo Bills. Look, this Buffalo Bills team, here's the team that you look at and you go, okay, for the last couple of years, even really like the last 3 years, they were the next team. They were going to be the next team. They were going to be, Josh Allen was going to be anointed. He was finally going to break the curse. All of a sudden, here we go. They just kind of fell off. And we see this happen in the NFL often, where a team almost gets there. They lose their closing window, and then we kind of forget about them. You remember the Minnesota Vikings for so many years, even going back, way back to when I was a kid. You know, you had the Vikings years. You have certain teams, Houston Texans, the Houston Oilers back then. You know, you have certain teams that have that window. I don't think the Bills' window is done. I don't. Look, I still think Josh Allen's coming back. Stephon Diggs is still in the right age bracket, right? He's still got 3 or 4 years where he can still be dynamic, and he's on the right side of 30. You add a guy like James Cook, who I liked last year. Damian Harris is 26 years old, coming over. That adds something. And people forget that last year, the injury that Shohei Ohtani is dealing with now, Josh Allen was dealing with last year, and that was from week 9 on. I mean, look, Allen just didn't look right. If you watched him, he had great moments, but he didn't look right while he was dealing with an injury. Speaking of injuries, how about that defense, right? That defense was decimated by injuries last year, and that was their strength going into the year. Now they're healthy. I know Von Miller is going to come back, but I don't think they're counting on him as much as people believe. But their secondary is healthy. They are healthy. Tre'Davious White is healthy. I mean, this is a team that is just overall healthy. And while everyone's looking this way and everyone's looking that way, the Bills are standing right in front of you. I like the Bills this year, and I think they win this division. Now, Miami certainly could put up a test. I like what Miami does. I like Waddle and the Hill combination, and Tua is fantastic, and all of that. I actually don't think the fact that Mostert is a starting running back and then Jeff Wilson's coming in for him, I don't think that that's a negative. I really don't. I think that they do a perfectly fine job in a pass-first offense, obviously. But this is what I say about this team all the time. If I knew that this team was going to be healthy, and you can say this about anybody, but Miami specifically, if I knew this team was going to be healthy, I might put him to win the Super Bowl. I mean, that's how much I think of them. But you can't look at Tua and think that he's going to go completely healthy. You can't look at their defense. Already, some of these offseason picks that they grabbed guys in big spots, and they're already banged up. Christian Wilkins isn't really in camp. Their cornerback, Ramsey, even Xavier Howard looked banged up last year. So I like Miami. I think they can make a playoff push here, and I like them to get a wild card, but I can't jump fully on top of this team. Let me skip over the Jets and we'll go to New England real quick. Look, I think it's a down year. I have never doubted Bill Belichick. I have been a Bill Belichick disciple of sorts for forever, because all he does is prove everybody wrong. He outthinks us. He does drop kicks with Doug Flutie. You know, he's giving a 10-minute soliloquy about how the long snapper came in. I like everything about Belichick, and he plucks guys off the street and goes, "You're a cornerback now. You're a wide receiver." He's done all that. But I don't understand this roster construction. I think Stevenson's very good. I get that. Juju, you're hearing problems about his knee. Hunter Henry. They're just not exciting names offensively. And defensively, look, they had good stats at the end of the year, but they didn't look as dominant. Now, I don't think it goes in the tank. I don't think Bills win in like 3-4 games. But I think in this division, in this conference, just a little bit much for me to say that Bill can make the playoffs. And the same thing goes for the Jets. Oh, here we go. Jet fans are going to start flipping out. But the reality is this, is that here's my assessment of the New York Jets, and it's a very fair assessment. I actually had a conversation with a couple of Jet fans that are level-headed Jet fans. Can't find them very much. And they sort of agree with this. Look, if you had an aging quarterback back there that was 40 years old, he might be able to take them to the Super Bowl. He might. They are a tremendous defense. I might say the best defense in the league. And you got Quinn Williams, you got Sauce Gardner. I think both are going to be up for defensive MVP. Absolutely fantastic. I like the running game. I know Hall and Cook are going to be spared early in the season, but I like the 1-2 combination. I like Wilson. I don't love their aging guys behind him, but okay, I can live with it. The problem is it's a weak offensive line, and you're relying upon a run game and a defense. That's how you should be winning. Except it's Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers is going to come in with his bravado, and Aaron Rodgers comes in with his name. And you watch, even with Hard Knocks, Hard Knocks should get 10 Emmys for trying to make him look like a good guy. He runs that team, not Robert Saleh. So I worry about the coaching staff, I worry about the offensive line, and I worry about a declining quarterback that 3 years in a row has had declining stats. And I don't want to hear, well, you know what, it's a better team. It might be, but he's going to want to throw the ball. This is a team that is designed to run the ball, drain the clock, and play great defense. I don't know if Rodgers is going to allow that to happen. I don't think he's going to be terrible, and I certainly don't think he's going to be MVP level. I think the Jets are going to be good. In the AFC, look, 9 wins doesn't get you in, and I can certainly see the Jets being a 9-win team. It's kind of where I have them. You look at where the Jets could be if Rodgers took a step back and said, okay, you know what, I am a 40-year-old quarterback, I'm going to hand off more. Yeah, the sky's the limit. I just don't believe that he's going to get there. In the NFC North, I have a surprise. I like the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this division, and for a lot of reasons, but I like Pittsburgh. I've always loved Tomlin. I've really made a lot of money betting on Tomlin the last couple of years when they keep giving me team total unders where he's never had it. He's never had a losing season in his career, and you just need a winning season to keep winning. I had Najee Harris over rushing yards a couple of years ago. I had TJ Watt to win the MVP, defensive MVP. I mean, I like the Steelers, and they do really well for me, so maybe that's why I'm a little favoritism with them a little bit more, but I like what I see in Kenny Pickett. I like George Pickens. Deontay Johnson is targeted a lot. He's going to get into the end zone this year. I like Jaylen Warren back there, and I didn't even start to mention the defense, which the defense with TJ Watt is absolutely fantastic. When TJ Watt was on the field last year, they, by the way, went 7-2 at the end of the year. They allowed less than 290 yards per game and 17 points per game, just under 17 points per game. Without him, it's 390 yards per game, 100 yards more, and 25 points per game, a little bit more than 25 points per game. You're talking about more than a touchdown. The absolute best player on the field is TJ Watt. He's going to be on the field. He's going to be healthy here. That makes a huge difference to me. I do think Cincinnati has to be in this conversation, of course. Joe Burrow's balky knee worries me. The fact that Joe Mixon sort of didn't come back and they weren't sure how they were going to use him, that concerns me. If a team is concerned with guys like that, I'm concerned. Joe Burrow's fantastic if he's on the field. Jamar Chase is fantastic if he's on the field, right? I just can't look at this team as this dynamic team. Now, look, they're going to be favored in all but one game, and they should have a very good record. And they'll make the playoffs in most people's predictions. I don't know, though. Look, last year they had a hard schedule. This year they're kind of middle of the pack. The Bengals, though, their defense is still a problem. They rank second to last in the NFL on getting to the quarterback. And their offensive line is still a problem. They ranked bottom 10 for 3 years in a row at protecting the quarterback. I still believe line play matters in the NFL. And if line play matters in the NFL, the Bengals are not going to the promised land, guys. The Baltimore Ravens, they just might. Last year, I told you guys right after the Super Bowl, 25-1 odds. I said, I love Lamar Jackson to win the MVP, and I love Baltimore Ravens to win it all. I thought it was great odds. I liked it. Then Lamar sat out, and everything went awry. J.K. Dobbins is back and healthy. They are going to a new offense, and I'm kind of worried about that, and that's why I don't have them win the division, because I think there's going to be an adjustment period to run, to throw. But I like the pieces that they have. I like Mark Andrews there. Roquan Smith in the middle made a huge difference. I'm a Bears fan. I can tell you that he was going to make a huge difference. And their injuries to the outside, to the cornerbacks, you can't overlook that. I think Baltimore's a very solid team in going to the playoffs. And they get to Cleveland Browns. Look, I do like Chubb, and I like pieces on this team and Cooper. But Deshaun Watson is a guy that even when he was Deshaun Watson before all this nonsense went on, he was still barely over 500, okay? He was a barely over 500 quarterback with great teams and great receivers. I think their defense takes a little bit of a step back. Myles Garrett will still be good, but their defense takes a little bit of a step back. Their offense takes a little bit of a step back. And you're going with a guy that, look, I like Nick Chubb, but man, if he goes down, whoo, this team could go completely into the tank. You're relying upon one guy at a position that most of the time they lose, some games there at least, and Deshaun's not good enough to make up for that. Got to show it to me, Deshaun. It's been a couple of years. And even when you did show it to me, losing playoff games and 3 games over 500. Jacksonville's winning the South, and not only that, I have Jacksonville being the best team in football, according to record-wise, right? I think they end up with the number 1 seed. They obviously play in a terrible division. We'll get into that in a moment, but Trevor Lawrence was absolutely fantastic. Trevor Lawrence was everything that I thought he would be in Clemson when he was at Clemson, when he came into the NFL over the last half of the season last year. Over the last 9 games, he had 2,273 yards, just under a 70% completion percentage, 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 104.6 passer rating. Absolutely tremendous. He also was number 1 in completion percentage from week 9 on with 71% and top 10 in passing attempts. All of that, they added Tank Bigsby, they added Calvin Ridley. This offense is going to be so dynamic, but their defense is good too. People forget they had Walker. Oh yeah, well, he's going to grow up a little bit. You got Foy in the middle. I like their defense, and no one's talking about it, but I do. Houston, Tennessee, Indy. I'm going to group them all together. Look, Indy's a disaster, okay? Indy's an absolute mess. Richardson can't throw. He needed a year to sit down and rest. Now he's going to be the focal point. They cut a bunch of receivers. There's only 3 on the roster with a guy like Richardson. Jonathan Taylor's bashing the team in the middle on their defense. Yeah, Franklin, but Leonard is a guy that can't stay healthy. Their defensive secondary is all switched up. I don't like anything about the Colts. I mean, Anthony Richardson was 6-7. As a college starter. You can't expect him to go into this league and win. Tennessee, look, it's the Vrabel aspect. I like Vrabel, but I think that the team is just disjointed. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Our offensive line is not very good. Their defense is going to take a little bit of a step back. Derrick Henry is great, and Ryan Tannehill is adequate, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Now, can they win a couple of games because of the division they're in? Yeah, maybe. But I do think Houston's going to be better than we anticipate, meaning that Houston's going to win 5-6 games, nothing more. I don't necessarily believe in C.J. Stroud, but I really do believe in the new head coach there. I like the way that they built the defense with Will Anderson. I like Dameon Pierce, who nobody gives credit to. Their young receivers are going to be kind of their downfall, or they're going to be the surprise. And if they fail, this is a 2-win team. If they succeed, it's a 6-win team. But I only see one team coming out there. In the West, how do you bet against KC? I know Kelsey's banged up. I get it. But Patrick Mahomes has yet to lose more than 5 starts in a season. I mean, this is just the way that it is. They're double digits, probably close to 13, 14 wins every single year. Change the players, change the names. It doesn't really matter. Patrick Mahomes has started 80 games in his career. The Chiefs has only lost 2 of them by more than 1 score. They're in every game as well. I mean, this is just the way that it is. Including the playoffs, Patrick Mahomes is just, look, he's like Jeter. I mean, you add his playoff accolades, but look at the regular season. The Chiefs have won the AFC 7 straight years now. 74% of the money, by the way, is making you on 8 in a row. I like it 8 in a row. I mean, how do you go against this team? Chris Jones not being there is a concern, but I think he eventually signs, and I do like Nick Bolton. I like the growing up of him. I like the next generation of Chiefs to be able to be surrounded by Patrick Mahomes and maybe a healthy Travis Kelce when he does come back. Who's going to be second? Look, I think the Chargers are second, and the Chargers could be a playoff team here. I'm just looking at the Chargers and going, everything always seems to go wrong for the Chargers. And they do have a bad coach. Look, Brandon Staley's a bad coach. But I like Kellen Moore there, which makes me feel good about them. Justin Herbert, absolutely fantastic. Yes, he's going to go deeper a lot more this year. But 2 aging receivers. You can talk to me about Quentin Johnston, but they have him ranked 4th on their own depth chart. So I have worries there. Derwin James, Bosa, the defense will be better. The offensive line will be better. Eckler is a 28-year-old running back. Maybe you start to get worried. I'm not overly that worried because he's not a guy that takes a pounding. So I like the Chargers. Probably get to the playoffs, but I don't love them because I think Brandon Staley holds them back. Speaking of new coaches, well, Sean Payton is going to wave a magic wand and Russell Wilson's going to be fine. No, I don't think so. The Broncos might have an improved offensive line. You could say that maybe the best offensive improvement out there for offensive line, sure. But Russell Wilson was still 26 in quarterback accuracy last year. Not all of that was bad play calling. A lot of it was, but not all of that is bad play calling. A lot has to fall on Russell Wilson. And now Jerry Jeudy's already banged up. He's missing pieces. We don't know about Javonte Williams. Patrick Surtain is a shutdown guy, but I think their defense last year showed some problems as well. Go ask Josh Jacobs, who ran all over them. Denver not making the playoffs, and maybe you could get 6-7 wins. I don't even know if they get 8. Speaking of Josh Jacobs, he's back with the Raiders. Devontae Adams is back with the Raiders, but they don't seem happy with their new quarterback and Jimmy Garoppolo, and I understand it. Look, Jimmy Garoppolo needs to be in the perfect position, and this is not the perfect position. Defensively, yeah, Max Crosby is going to be fantastic, but who can they cover in the back end? Losing Darren Waller also hurts this team. I have the Raiders, again, same kind of thing as Denver. They might both win 8 games and not make the playoffs, but I don't see them be a real playoff pushing kind of team. The Raiders seem to me like a 6-win team more than an 8-win team. Over to the NFC, well, you know what? The Eagles are hard to go against. It really is hard to go against the Eagles here. They had the number 1 graded offensive line last year. They were dynamic on defense. Jalen Hurts almost won the MVP. 2 receivers are great. They switched up all their running backs. But I do poke holes in this. First of all, I don't like the repeat, right? I don't like trying to go back-to-back, especially in a tough division like this. As good as their offensive line is and their defensive line, fantastic. Go look at the ages of the key contributors. That has to be a concern there. Their middle linebackers were a little bit of a worry last year. They switched over the entire running back core. Why would you do that for what you think is an upgrade? And I'm looking at it and saying, you know what? Maybe it's an upgrade if everything falls into place, but I think you guys did pretty fine last year. Jalen Hurts, also, I don't believe that he's this good. And that's not to say he's a bad quarterback. I don't think Jalen Hurts is an MVP, perennial every year candidate. And I think we're going to see that this year. So someone can leap over them. Is it going to be the Washington Commanders? No, it's not. Well, I like Cameron Curl, and I think Sam Howell actually has a pretty decent year. The message in camp for Eric Bieniemy hasn't been landing exactly great, I'm hearing, and their talent level just isn't quite there. If Washington was somewhere else, you put Washington in the NFC South, maybe I have them winning it because I think Washington can win 8 games or so, but I just think they fall short in a very, very tough division. Chase Young coming back could help them. If McLaren was fully healthy, that could help them. They have some nice pieces and parts, but pieces and parts don't win in divisions. Same thing with the Dallas Cowboys. Look, my broadcast partner, Tim, loves Cowboys, loves them to win this year, doesn't like them. Who likes them to win this year? I don't see it. I don't think that you can lose it. Look, everyone's looking at Pollard, especially in fantasy circles, as a top 5 guy, but he hasn't handled the load before. And the guy behind him is 5'5". He's not handling that big load, right? It's just not happening. They lost key pieces. I like Jake Ferguson, but is he really going to be as reliable as the tight ends that Dak has had to play with? The Dallas defense was very good last year with Parsons and Diggs. I get that, but a lot of it was turnovers. And year to year, turnovers are very hard. They're kind of fluky to replicate. And then, of course, Mike McCarthy, who I think is a very average coach. That's not an insult, and it's not a compliment. So I think he's a very average coach. I'm going with the team that I think has the best coach in the division, and that's the New York Giants. And look, I shocked myself because early on you go, well, the Giants did well last year because they had the 4th easiest schedule in the league, and they did. And now they have the 3rd most difficult. That's tough, okay? You get the Giants at 6-1 to win this division. Saquon's back. Daniel Jones, look, you have another year with Brian Daboll. I think that this is kind of that year where maybe Daniel Jones starts to get into that upper echelon. Not top 5, but into that top 10 conversation. We think that he is legit. They added some weapons. I like the kid Hyatt from Tennessee. Defensively, they have names. They just got to put this thing together. They did bring in some better, good names. I don't want to say marketably better, but good names there. Kokere. You look at Dexter Lawrence is still there. I like what they're doing. And here's the other key. The Giants have room and maneuverability to go out there and get another receiver, and they may be a player as the year moves on. But I like coaching. And to me, I think the Eagles take a slight step back, and I have to decide between Dallas and McCarthy or Daboll, and I'm going with Daboll. Let's go to the North. Yeah, that's where the Bears are. So I'll start off with the Bears. Look, I had a conversation with my buddy Rob, who interviewed me for the Chicago Sun-Times. Rob, you should go check his stuff out. And Rob asked me about what I believed with the Chicago Bears. And I said, I don't know if they're a playoff team, but if it all comes together, they certainly can. They can make big noise this year. And we had this conversation. I can tell you the exact date because it was my daughter's birthday, right? It was in the middle of August. And we had this conversation, and I sat back and I said, as long as they're healthy, I think they go over their team total, which was 7.5. I think that they can make the playoffs at 155. I think they can threaten for the division. Literally days after I spoke, they lost 2 offensive linemen. This is not a team that's good enough to make up for those losses. Now, I love Brisker. I like bringing in Edmonds and Edwards. I like what they've done there, but they still can't get a pass rush. From the front 4 is very, very weak. Offensively, their offensive line is very weak. We just talked about this. I don't like weak offensive and defensive lines. I think Fields can be fantastic. I think DJ Moore's fantastic. I think Khalil Herbert's massively underrated. I think Cole Kmet is great. They have a lot of pieces. This is another team. There are pieces of the parts, right? There's a lot of pieces, a lot of parts. If it all comes together, the Bears can be dangerous if they sneak in. But right now, with 2 offensive linemen injured and the defensive line that's constructed the way it is, I don't have them winning the division. I kind of want to say wild card, though, because their division is weak. Look, the Green Bay Packers are weak. Jordan Love, I'm not believing in him. And their offensive line is good, but their defense was a weakness at times last year. Their offensive line got a little worse this year. Both wide receivers are, I'm going to say, unproven and banged up. They're going a new philosophy. I like A.J. Dillon. I watched him at BC, and he was fantastic. But Jones is getting a little long in the tooth. And again, you're trying to say that a coach that Aaron Rodgers didn't like and didn't think he was a good coach, and a quarterback that we're not sure about is going to lead this team. No, I mean, look, they're a 6-7 win team to me. Minnesota is the team that won 13 games last year. And I sat here and I told you, they're going over their team total wins. Why? Because they played one of the easiest schedules in football last season. But 11 of those 13 wins were decided by 7 points or less, or 8 points or less, a touchdown. It set an NFL record. That is just a fluky kind of thing. Now you take away defensive players. You take away Adam Thielen, security blanket, we could say. You take away Dalvin Cook. Sure, Jordan Addison has all the hype to him, and he might be good, but it might take a little while for that to happen. It might take a little while for Danielle Hunter and the defense to feel a little bit more comfortable. I like Kirk Cousins a lot, and I think he could absolutely take this team to certain heights. But Minnesota, you go out there, you win 11 of your 13 games by 8 points or less, and a lot of those in a fluky manner. I mean, even if you do well and you do 5-3 in those games, or you only win 5 of those games or 6 of those games. Look, I think Minnesota is a fine team. Again, 8-9 wins. I don't know if 8-9 wins get you in the wild card. And that's kind of where I'm deciding with the Chicago Bears. So I have the Lions winning this division. And I'm not buying the Lions, and biting kneecaps. And I'm not buying the hoopla around the Lions. I don't care what happens on opening night. It doesn't matter. I am not buying the hoopla on the Lions. I think they're very good, but they have flaws. I like Aiden Hutchinson, but you can still run on this team. I don't like their middle linebackers. You can pass on this team as well. Oh, by the way, defense could be their undoing. Now, they have a dynamic offensive line. I mean, absolutely. It was graded out number 3 by Pro Football Focus, and I think that they are absolutely a stat top 5. I like the Sun God. I like Jabir Briggs. I like Montgomery. I like Jared Goff. He's fine. But my downfall here is that I'm not buying into this team as a serious Super Bowl contender because I don't believe in Dan Campbell going down the road and really just going crazy and doing what we haven't seen in our lifetime, which is the Lions winning more than one playoff game. And my buddies, Brian and Chris, who come from Detroit, they'll tell you it's not something smart to do to expect the Lions to win playoff games. But I think they win the division. Now we go to the South. And I mentioned it. Look, the South is terrible, right? Atlanta could be fun, but they don't even believe in Desmond Ridder. He wasn't even named team captain, guys. I don't know if he lasts the year. I like Bijan. I like Algier. I like Drake London. Kyle Pitts, again, ranked 4th option on the depth chart. Something's going on in Atlanta. And then you look at that defense, which is just bad. Now, I know they tried to shore it up with Bates, but it's just a bad defense. I think Atlanta could be fun, and they could play their style and run the ball tremendously. But it's not a defense I absolutely have any confidence in, even in a division like this. Carolina, on the other end, I like their defense, okay? I like Brian Burns. I like Chin. I like Louvu. I like their defense. I don't like their offense. Miles Sanders is not the guy to me. I'm not sure if Bryce Young's the guy. The offensive line is a little weak. I don't know if Thielen has anything left, and he's already banged up. I'm not sure Mingo's ready to step up. So one team's got an offense, one team's got a defense. The Bucks, don't believe in their quarterback, right? I like White, I like Evans, I like Godwin. How do you not? But their offensive line lost a major component there. I like their middle linebackers, but I don't like their safety. So everyone's kind of in that range where if you sat back and you told me, you know what, things all clicked for all three of these teams. Everything clicked for these three teams, and they won the division. I could listen to this argument. I could listen to this conversation, even though I think that the winning this division is 9 wins. But if you turn around and tell me everything fell off the rails and they won 1 or 2 games, I'm listening to that argument with these three teams as well. So I'm going to go with the Saints just because I think they have the most stability. Look, they're already favored in 14 of the 17 games, and their first 6 games are really going to tell you what we know about the Saints. Everyone's going to be talking about Olave and Carr and Johnson and what they're doing offensively, but it's their defense. Their Saints defense, here's what their schedule is. They face Ryan Tannehill, Bryce Young, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Mac Jones, and CJ Stroud in the first 6 weeks. They very well could go 6-0. Very well. And then we get to the West. And the West kind of is a mess. I'm wearing the Arizona Cardinals jersey because they're first on the clock, and Caleb Williams are going to Arizona. They're trying to tank. I mean, Gannon is not the guy. I mean, they don't have a quarterback. I'm not sure what they're doing with Zach Ertz when you got McBride there. They don't really have anybody on defense. Oh, Simmons got a little talent. Ship him out of town for a 7th rounder. The only explanation is you had suck for luck, right? Tank for the Caleb. I mean, whatever it might be. It's just, don't have Will for Williams, whatever it might be. Arizona's going to be bad. Probably the worst team in the league. Although the Colts might challenge that, but Arizona's going to be bad. The Rams, I wanted to like the Rams this year. I did. I thought McVay coming back, and you know what, Aaron Donald and Stafford, they had pride in Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp gets hurt. Stafford says he doesn't even know his teammates because he doesn't have Facebook. Their defense is bad. They're saying that they want to get Williams carries instead of just giving it to Akers. I don't know what's going on in Los Angeles with the Rams. I can't go anywhere near them. So that leaves San Francisco and Seattle. And this is a little interesting. I do not have San Francisco winning this division. I know how good they are. Nick Bosa being there was tremendous. With him, they're 37-14. Without him, they're 5-10. Nick Bosa signs last minute, kind of like Watt did, right? He signs last minute. But I'm not positive I believe fully in Brock Purdy. I'm not positive I believe that George Kittle, who's already banged up, can last. He doesn't last games. You know that. You know he's missing 3-4 games. I don't know if Christian McCaffrey is a guy that I rely upon that can completely last. I don't love their offensive line. I certainly don't love their secondary. So there's reasons for me not to like San Francisco. Those reasons I can't find in Seattle. Seattle looks really good. I like what they added. Walker, and now they grabbed the kid Charbonnet. Oh my goodness, you got to like that running game. But their passing attack, they got Jackson Smith now added to Lockett and Metcalf. Geno Smith looked good. Their offensive line, I talked about it last year, absolutely stout. In the middle was always the problem. Their defense was a problem, but you got Tariq Woolen out there. Their defense in the middle was a problem. They bring back Bobby Wagner, who looked like he didn't lose a step, and Jordan Brooks should be healthy. That now gives them a dynamic middle linebacking core. I like Seattle to win this thing. It's going to be nip and tuck, right? And I mean, I could look like a fool because San Francisco could go out there and win like 14 games. But San Francisco fans, don't jump on me yet because I have San Francisco going in the NFC. I got them going to the Super Bowl. I would like to pick another team, right? I like to pick Seattle, but once you get into the playoffs, I don't really think the Saints are a real threat, and I don't really think that Detroit or Minnesota or even the Bears are a real threat. So it's kind of between the East, San Francisco, and Seattle. So I give Seattle the division. Again, I think the Eagles take a step back. I'm going San Francisco to go to the Super Bowl out of the NFC, although I don't have them in a position where I have them winning the division. And then we look at the AFC. Over in the AFC, it could be anybody. I mean, one of these great quarterbacks is not even going to make the playoffs. Forget about making the Super Bowl. One of these great quarterbacks. It's easy to go back to Patrick Mahomes, but look, we're already starting to see that things might be falling off, and it's really hard to repeat. I have problems with Joe Burrow, the offensive line there. I do have Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars having the best record, but the best record doesn't always mean you're going to win. And I think it's a little early for me to pick the Jacksonville Jaguars. By the way, MVP, yeah, Trevor Lawrence will be my MVP. But I think this is the year that everyone's looking the other way, and Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills do it. I might be the only guy back on the Buffalo bandwagon for the 3rd year in a row, but I'm going back to the Buffalo bandwagon. I can't get kicked off. I think that their defense is fantastic. I absolutely love Josh Allen. I think that there's a lot of prove it there that we're not hearing about. And it's not a hyped up team, and that's better. So come February, guys, Just like a TLC match between the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, and Edge and Christian. There's going to be a lot of tables being broken in Orchard Park because the Buffalo Bills are your Super Bowl champions. All right, guys, thank you for listening in. And please, comment below. What do you think? Where did I get it wrong? Where did I get it right? Comment, like, subscribe, hit that like button. I'll be doing a lot more of these videos, so you're going to be getting quite a few of them. And make sure you guys are along for the ride. Go check me out at TomBartonSports.com, Tom Barton Sports. I'll be back, and you can bet on that.